Alright, so now we move on to the tough simultaneous equations. And me personally, I think these are the best. I think these are easy marks. Obviously assuming you can do quadratics, but as long as you can solve quadratics, these, once you understand why you're doing what you do, it's straightforward. You know I generally say that for a lot of the stuff, but hopefully, look, this will make sense to you. So look, it's the same kind of problem again. We've got two equations, one which is a hard one. So this is why I kind of label, you know, a second, why is this not working? Yeah, so hopefully you agree that, look, this is the easy equation. And this is the hard one. And the hard one, literally, you'll only have one which has like squared. Sometimes you get x squared and y squared. So I call that the hard, I call this the easy one. Now before, in the last one, obviously, like, we, what's the word? We like multiply top and bottom by stuff, and then we try to cancel it out. Listen, that's called by elimination, because obviously, like, you know, you end up getting them the same number, and then you eliminate them by either adding them. You're not going to do that. This is by substitution, and this is always by substitution. And literally, this is how you do it step by step. So listen, first problem is also the same. We've got two equations, both with x and y. We can't solve an equation which has both x and y, so our first goal is just to get an equation with either x's or y's. And again, it doesn't matter, but with these ones, it's going to be much, much easier to do one usually. So here's what we could do. Here are two options. Well, let me show you for one of them. The first thing you want to do is you will always rearrange the easy equation to make y, or sometimes x, the subject. So look, imagine, here's the two choices. So if we made y the subject, hopefully you guys are happy that y would equal 1 minus 7x. Now if we made x, well, okay, and I'll show you why we do that. So now listen, look at that equation. That says that y equals 1 minus 7x. So what we then do is we take the hard equation, y equals 2x squared minus 3. And what this equation is saying is, look, it's saying another way of writing y is 1 minus 7x. So literally what you do is you take the y in this equation and almost like replace it with 1 minus 7x. Do you see that? Just by doing that, we've now got an equation. Yeah, I mean, it's got x squareds and 7x and everything, but at least there's no y's in there. So now what you do is you rearrange. So, you know, imagine if I add 7x to both sides. That will give me 2x squared. Basically, all I do is make one side equal to 0. So you get 1. Finally, take away 1 from each side. You get 0 equals 2x squared plus 7x minus 3, which, you know, I probably prefer looking at it this way. And that's it. Look, you've got to a point where now you've got an equation which has just x's, and every single time, and I do mean every single time with these questions, it's going to be a nice, well, it's not going to be a nice quadratic necessarily, but it will be a quadratic every single time. So, you know, how do you, this one, sorry, my bad, that should have, this one should have been a minus 4. So, obviously when we take 1 away from here, that gives us minus 4. So, but yeah, you get my point, right? So now, here's what you do. You've just got to now solve this to find your two values of x. And there's a few ways you can do that. So, if you can see the factorization for this, what would it be? It would be this. So you can factorize it like that. And, you know, if you don't know what I've just done there, you've got to go look at the factorize the quadratic videos. And, you know, once you factorize that, you should be happy that you get two values of x. You get x equals a half, you get x equals minus 4. So again, I mean, this is quadratic work. Literally everything from this point on to finding the x's is quadratic work. That's it. So now look, you've got two values of x, which is actually kind of strange if you looked compared to the last one, which only gave you one value of x. Because that's what, the reason you got one value of x was that there was literally only one combination of x and y which if you plug into here and here work. In this example, there's actually two values of it which work. So what do you do now? Simple enough. You just accept that, look, there's going to be two x and y's. So what you do is you find each y for each of the x's. So now, and you do it, so you can either plug it into here or into here, but I recommend use this one, the one which you rearrange. That's why they're saying this sub x values into equation in step 1. Because it's beautiful, you just put the x's in there, and it's already got y as a subject. So let's do it for this one. So we've got y equals 1 minus 7 times a half is 3.5. You could have done it with fractions as well. I actually prefer doing it with fractions. But that equals minus 2.5. So you can write that as minus 2.5, or you can write it as minus 5 over 2. It doesn't matter. You could have easily wrote this as x equals 0.5, y equals minus 2.5. There's nothing wrong with that. Generally, decimals, fractions are better in my opinion, but whatever. But notice, look, can you see I'm clearly dividing it? It's because this pair of x and y work together. So it would be a mistake to pair this y with this x. So that's the only thing you've got to be careful of as well. So finally, let's find the y for this. And it's really simple. So, y equals 1 minus... Be careful here. This is minus 7 times minus 4. So that's actually going to end up giving you... So this will give you minus 28. So minus minus, give you a plus. So actually this y is 29. And you can check this. So, take this x and y, put it into here, obviously that will balance as well, and you can double check it here. So look, this is saying that 29 should equal 2 times x, which is minus 4 squared, minus 3. Well, is that correct? Minus 4 squared would give us positive 16 times 2, that'll give us 32, minus 3. And yeah, that does in fact equal 29. Try it for this one as well. It will work. So it's literally like that. So let me go over that again. You rearrange the first easy equation to make x or y the subject. And when I say, you'll notice on what I've written on the right hand side of the method, I said be smart about your choice. Now the reason I say this is I decided to make y the subject. And did you see, like, if I rub that out, then I got to this stage, didn't I? I got to this, which was an easy rearranging to get my quadratic. Now, imagine if I had decided to make x the subject and then rearrange it. Here's what would have happened. It'd still be correct, but it would be an absolute nightmare. So, firstly, it'll be 7x equals 1 minus y. Then divide by 7, so you get 1 minus y over 7, which you can eventually split to 1 over 7 minus y over 7. Already it doesn't look good. So now if we pull this hard equation here, 2x squared. Remember, you've got this for x. Remember, this is x equals. So what you're doing is wherever you see the x, here, you replace it with this. So this is what will happen. You got 2 times 1 over 7 minus y over 7 squared minus 3. So yeah, what you'd have to do here is you'd have to do double bracket. You've got double bracket with these horrible fractions. So that's why I say, look, be smart. Almost always, I'll tell you this, I don't know why it is. When they usually give you a question in exams, it's almost always just make y the subject. I don't know why. It's always make y the subject. But if they didn't give you that, my kind of general advice is just be smart. Which one is going to be easier to plug in? That's all you've got to think about. So that's it. So okay. So you'll have an easy equation. Rearrange that to make y the subject. Usually might be x. Use your brain. Think about how you're going to sub it into the hard equation. Because the reason when you sub it in is you'll get a quadratic equation. Solve that quadratic equation. By the way, when I factorized it, I could have used quadratic formula. There's nothing wrong with that. If I want to complete the square, I could have done that. It doesn't matter which method you use, which one you prefer. I know a lot of people, especially on calculator, prefer quadratic equation because you could just plug it in. You just find your a, decide your a, b, and c, and that's it. Maybe this one I'll actually do it by quadratic formula. Solve the two values, you get x's, and then just literally plug it in to find your y's. It's as simple as that. And this is like how you get 7 marks in a question. It's great. So okay, so two equations again. ax plus y equals -3, b equals y equals 2x squared. This time it's plus 3. Oh, I've done a cube there, meant squared. Great, my battery's going to run out again. Put it in, and it's charging. Alright, back on. So look, again here, look, you don't want to make x the subject because you're going to have to put it in square it. Also, you can see it's much easier to make y the subject. So y would equal -3 minus 8x. So alright, do you see that? I rearranged my easy equation to make y the subject. Now, I take this thing, y equals 2x squared plus 3. And I solve, where I see my y, yeah, I replace it with this. Because that's what this kind of equation is telling me, because it's the same. So I get to -3 minus 8x equals 2x squared plus 3. So now obviously I add ax to each side and I add 3 to each side. So I will get to 0 equals 2x squared plus 8x plus 6. Now, that's the same as this. So I'm going to solve this. Now, do any of you know what you should do next? And I'll tell you, it's something which you should do before you go for factorizing quadratic formula. Take a second, have a think. What should you do? Alright, and if you got it, it's, yeah, you should have divided both sides by 2. Simply because of this, because you can rewrite, factorize 2 out of it. Yeah, if you do that, then you can divide each side by 2. So you can see that will cancel. 0 divided by 2 is that. And obviously it's much easier to work with something like this than it is the, trying to factorize this or do the quadratic formula. So, I mean, look, there's a few ways you can do this. You factorize it. Again, I'm not going to go over how I do the factorizing. That's the earlier videos. You do that. And your x equals -3 and x equals -1. If you think it should equal +1 and -3, you definitely need to go back. I get to this stage, and then look, there are my two x values. I use this equation, the one which I rearrange because it's the best one. I can just plug it in. So -3 minus 8 minus 3. So this 8 times -3 is going to give me -24. So minus 24. So this becomes a plus. Gives me y equals 21. So there you go. That one's sorted. This one would become -3 minus 8 times -1. So I'll hurry this up. That would equal +8. If you don't know what I did there, you need to talk to me. So okay, so they're my two. Literally I've done it. So I'll just quickly show you as well. You could have easily, at this stage, also done the quadratic formula. So for this one, hopefully you see a equals 1, b equals 4, c equals 3. It's a nice straightforward one. So you literally do the minus b thing by, so what is that? I'll show you. Minus b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So I always like to do my 4ac separate. That's just 4 times 1 times 3. So that's going to be 12. So yeah, plug it in. -4 plus or minus b squared, which is 16, minus 4ac, which is 12, so minus 12, over 2 times a, which is 2, so that becomes -4, plus or minus square root of 4, as you guys can see, that's going to become square root of 4, which is 2, over 2. Then you've got to just kind of think of the two things separate, so first consider it as a minus. That'll be -6 over 2, which gives you -3. This one will be -4 plus 2 over 2, that's -2 over 2, which gives you -1. So you see, you could have done it like that. Now we'll show you, basically, you've got to be good with quadratic formula, because sometimes you are forced to use it. Yeah, and I'll be showing you a example why. And finally, you could have completed the square, which is my favorite, as long as there's no number in front of the x squared, and the number in front of the x is even. So you can do it like that. So minus 4 plus 3. So that'll be x plus 2 squared minus 1 equals 0 plus 1 each side. X plus 2. I hope you guys, you should be comfortable with this. If you're not comfortable with what I'm doing, that means you need to literally go back on this and recap this. Definitely got to be strong on all three of these. I'm sure you guys have a preference which ones you prefer, but it doesn't matter. You could get asked any time that you have to do it this way. You have to do it this way. So you're very good with all of them. So okay, so that's one. And obviously I've just got it up to the x's and just find the y's exactly the same. So alright, so that's that one. And it really is the same kind of scenario. Just get good at doing them. Let's kind of pick another one. Oh, this is a good one. So, alright, so this one is where the hard equation has both of them squared. So like that. So this one's a little bit more trickier. Then you have y minus x equals 3. Now it doesn't really matter. This one, it doesn't matter which one you do it around, but I recommend you do, well, let's just do y. Yeah, see that? So I've rearranged my easy one. So now look, I've got to plug it into here. So I've got to replace it with the hard one, yeah? Now remember, I'm replacing this y. Yeah, so that y I'm going to have to replace with all of 8 plus x plus 3. But I'm still going to have to square it. Got to deal with that still. Can't get rid of that. So now look, with this one, I've got to do a double bracket multiplication for this one. So this one gets much tougher. Not hard, but tougher. So this one's still going to be x squared. This one's ended up going to be x squared plus 3x plus 3x. It's going to be 6x plus 9 equals 29. So, join those two x squares together. 2x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 29. So now I'm going to take away 29 from each side. Get 2x squared plus 6x minus 20. Really, all I'm doing is I'm giving you more practice for quadratic stuff. You see how much of this is quadratic. Now, you smart guys would have known to divide both sides by 2. We've got x squared plus 3x minus 10 equals 0. Now, here's the thing as well. Again, you've got a choice of options of which methods you do. I mean, you probably wouldn't do completing the square, because to do that one, you'd have to do like 3 over 2 squared. So you probably don't want to do that one. You can still be correct, it's just you're going to have to deal with fractions. Yeah, but if you get given this kind of question on a non-calculated paper, then I can promise you it will factorize. Now what you'll see in the next question is if you get given it in a non-calculator paper, it might not factorize to these lovely numbers, and the only option you're going to have is the quadratic formula. So here's the deal. If you want to, this one will factorize, and it will factorize to this x plus 5 x minus 3 equals 0. But here's the deal. If they give you free reign, especially in the non-calculator, I recommend, look, if you're not fully comfortable with any of these, some people, I don't know, they just don't like factorizing, then no worries, just, use the quadratic formula. But anyway, hopefully you can see these are the two answers by factorizing. I'll go over the quadratic formula as well. And then you just use this equation. Yeah. So what am I talking about? You use this equation. This is way better. Y equals minus 5 plus 3, so that'll be minus 2. This one, so this will be 3 plus 3, so that's 6. So there you go. They're your two answers. That doesn't even look right, to be honest. What have I done there? Oh yeah, because this one, I've factorized that one wrong. Silly me. You know what, I will eventually edit these videos so I don't make any little silly errors. That should be minus 2. But for the time being, you understand, right? I'm just doing this free-flowing for you. And finally, you would have just used that and you would have got what should you have got on that one? -1? That doesn't look right. I'm sure it's got to be 5. Well, I know it's got to be 5. It's got to be minus. How do I do this? -5. Looks like I made a little bit of a mistake. So what's going on wrong here? That is right, isn't it? Wait, but -2 plus 3 would give you +1. I'm guessing you'd want -3 for that. That's an interesting one. I'm not 100% sure where I went wrong here. So let's have a look. I rearranged that correctly. So you give me... Have I wrote this correctly? Y minus x equals... Yes, correct. That's the right answer. That's for sure. Blatantly making a bit of a stupid error here. I'm just not sure where. I don't know. Pretty sure both of those work. I just don't know how they work. Because here's the deal. This is what I'm thinking. If I put minus... Oh, this is why. God. This one should be equivalent to +2. Really, really sorry about that. Really stupid. So yeah, this one gives you -5. This one gives you 2. That makes way more sense. 2 plus 3 equals 5. Look, unfortunately, anyone can make a silly error. This is the problem with maths. So, but yeah, hopefully that makes sense to you. Yeah, that side. Let's now finally look at this last one. And this one's an interesting one. So they give you 2x squared plus 5y equals 11. And then the other one, which is very nice, yeah, sometimes you'll notice this as well. They're giving you the other one already. Can you see that's already rearranged? But now listen, this question would come on a, what would it come on? This one will come on a calculator paper, because what it will say is solve, yeah, and it says giving your answers to 2 decimal places. And all that means, yeah, is that look, you're not going to get really nice numbers. So obviously, look, you can't factorize, because if you factorize, you're going to get what, something like this at best, you know, something like this. You get to that stage, you know, you're going to get x equals half, x equals -3. So if you factorize, you always end up getting reasonably nice kind of numbers, right? But if it says 2 decimal places, that's saying, look, you're going to have to round. You're not going to get pretty numbers. And now the only ones which can deal with that are completing the square, but more often than not, yeah, the one I recommend is quadratic formula. So here's what you do. This is already rearranged. So we're just going to stick that into that. So look, you've got 2x squared, and a plus 5, and now that's x plus 1. Okay, so we're going to have to multiply these brackets out. So you can get 2x squared plus 5x plus 5 equals 11. So now you take away 11 each side. Remember, solving a quadratic, you've got to make the other side equal to, what do you have to make it equal to? You've got to make it equal to 0. Okay, so you get to this stage. Now look, completing the square, I don't recommend. If the number in front of this is isn't 1, don't bother with that. And you can't do factorizing. So really, quadratic formula. And then you can see, look, cos 5 doesn't divide by 2. It's not like you can divide this side by 2. So you just have to accept it. A equals 2, B equals 5, and C equals -6. So you know we're going to have to be careful here as well. Could be. So your x values are going to be minus b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Now, I always like to do my 4ac separately. So that becomes 4 times 2 times -6. So that is going to equal minus 48. Look at that. So here we go. So minus b, so that's going to be minus 5 plus or minus b squared, which is 25, minus 48. So right, always be careful with that. Over 4. So this one simplifies down to minus 5, plus or minus, so 25 add 48. Don't forget minus minus becomes a plus. You get the square root of 73 over 4. And now, you've just got to do these separate. Take your time with these. Make sure you don't mess it up. And you'll find that this one gives you, so let's have a look, root 73 minus 5 over 4. This one ends up giving you 0.886. So you know what, for the time being, because we're still going to have to substitute it, keep that to 3 decimal places. Because remember, you're still going to use this number. Well, actually you don't have to, because you're just going to add 1 to it, right? But okay, keep that for the time being at 3 decimal places. Once we give our answers, we'll round everything to 2 decimal places. Like that. Take your time with this one as well. So this one is going to be minus 3.386. So that's what we've got already here. So we've got 2 values. We've got x equals 0.866. The other one, we've got x equals minus 3.386. So what's our y is going to equal? We just use this. So we're literally just going to add 1 to these. So this one is going to give you 1.886. This one's going to give you minus 2.386. So what's our final thing? Obviously round these to 2 decimal places. So this will round to 0.89 and this will round to 1.89. So that's one of your solutions. This one will round to minus 3.39. This one rounds to minus 2.39. Alright, so a little bit messy there. Also kind of obviously had a little slip up in the middle there as well myself. Embarrassing for sure. But hopefully at the end of this, you've understood how to do these 2 difficult simultaneouses. So I'll run over the method again. So you'll always start with the easy and the hard one. There's no promise that the easy will be on the top or the bottom. Just the easy one won't have any squares in. So you rearrange that to make usually y the subject, but be smart because whatever you make the subject, you're going to sub into here. So obviously here, wouldn't you much rather have y sub in? Because otherwise, if you rearrange to make x the subject, you're going to have to square it. That's going to be like double brackets. Forget that. So look, this is nice. So you rearrange to make y the subject, or whatever you want. Yeah, the easy one. Rearrange your easy one to make x or y the subject. Then you use that rearranged thing to put it back into the hard equation. You might have to multiply it brackets. You might have to do a double bracket. But you should get a nice, once everything's multiplied and rearranged to make one side 0, you get a quadratic. Remember, if the numbers in front of the x squared, the x, and the number at the end, they've got like a common number, so they're all multiples of 3, divide by 3. If not, that's just the one you've got to deal with. And then just solve that quadratic any way you can. Remember, if it says give you answers 2 decimal places, 1 decimal place, 3 decimal place, you're usually going to have to use a quadratic formula. So then you get your 2 values of x, and then use your rearranged equation to find your, the other y, the 2 y's for them as well. And just make sure as well that you pair the x and y's correctly. So if you plug that x into here, make sure the y you get, you pair it up with that, and same, right? So if you switch those y's, it would be wrong. So yeah, there you go. That's the end of this video as well. And that pretty much covers everything simultaneous. What I'll do, probably do a video going through loads of exam questions, but to be honest, I might even skip that because this literally is it. This is literally it. Maybe I'll do it, maybe I don't. If I don't, I think the next thing I'll be doing is probably inequalities, I think. Can't remember. But yeah, I'll see you in the next video, alright?